In fiction, especially in a lot of recent stuff, both anime and in other styles or mediums, a theme you'll see on a fairly regular basis is a clash between individuality, being yourself, and tradition, being a cultural, religious, or family in nature. It's a theme that's especially common in media aimed at younger audiences. Disney in particular has used this quite a bit. In most of those instances, in fact, in all the ones I could think of offhand, the story's message seems to be, being yourself is what matters, throw away that tradition, and show the stuffy adults that you know better. Personally, as someone who very much values tradition and who manages to live by it while still doing my own thing within those confines, I'm not a fan of that sort of theme. Which is why, when I first watched Girls Und Panzer, I was very pleasantly surprised to see it take a very balanced view of this age-old conflict. I'll pause here for the obligatory spoiler warning. There's no avoiding at least some of that this week. To take a look at how Girls Und Panzer treats this conflict between tradition and individuality, I'm going to focus on a few plot threads. Miho's plot, Hana's side plot, and Chihatan's development, with a guest appearance by the Ori Alliance in their film. Miho and Hana's stories are the clearest examples of this in the show. We have Miho's conflict with her mother's very competitive, militaristic approach to Senshiro, and Hana's desire to do something active, i.e. Senshiro, instead of focusing all of her time on the family tradition of flower arrangement. Interestingly though, and this is what's important, neither of them attack or otherwise badmouth their family traditions, and neither is truly trying to abandon that tradition, or even to stray particularly far from it. Miho really doesn't talk too much about her conflict with her mom. Her position vis-a-vis the Nishizumi style is more mentioned by Shiho and Maho than by Miho herself. Only near the end of the season does Miho really talk about how she found her own Senshiro, and in their film, she demonstrates her acknowledgement of Maho's Nishizumi style of focused skill by making her one of the unit commanders. Similarly, Hana never straight up rejects flower arranging as a skill. From the outset, she claims she still enjoys it and wants to do it, but also wants to do Senshiro. And of course, by the end of the season, she's able to find a way to combine both her love of tanks and flower arranging, which manages to win over her extremely skeptical mother. She still believes in and holds by the spirit of the tradition, even if in a somewhat different way. That's what it's all about. Respecting tradition, while finding a way to express yourself at the same time. Similarly, while Miho's tactics are obviously not strict Nishizumi style, the time spent using it absolutely made her a better tank commander, and informed her own tactics at least somewhat. Also, I seem to remember a line from somewhere where somebody describes her style as a variant of Nishizumi style, but I can't remember exactly where that was at the moment. Notice that Miho never attacks the Nishizumi style, or even her mom's approach really. She never argues with her mom, even when she gets chewed out in that flashback, though it's clear that she sees Senshiro in a somewhat different way. What she does do is demonstrate her own skills, integrating the Nishizumi style that she was raised on, while adding her own flair to it. And this is what wins not just her mom's grudging respect, but even her firm loyalty, as seen when she defends Ori in their film from the government asshole who was trying to shut down the school. This, in a way, mirrors Hana's mother's coming to accept Senshiro, and seeing that it actually improved her daughter's flower arrangements, bringing in a new, unique approach, while not rejecting, and also while still honoring, the old. Additionally, it's highly likely that Hana's prior experience with the very precise, deliberate art of flower arrangement played a part in her becoming such a great tank gunner. Again, it's a sign that there is value in tradition, even if you are doing something a little different. As a brief side note, I'd bet that Hana's subplot was deliberately added to parallel Miho's, and the scene happening when it did, shortly before the finals, was meant to give Miho hope that if she did something similar by defeating Koro Morimine, her mother might also come around to accept her modified Nishizumi style, which, of course, she does. It wouldn't be Girls Und Panzer if these family conflicts weren't resolved in a wholesome and respectful way. Other stories would be much more likely to force both direct conflicts between the children and parents, and to eventually force the parents to accept the child doing something completely breaking with tradition, instead of merely adding a personal twist to it. The adults here are just shown as somewhat reactionary when it comes to change, due to fear of the loss of family tradition, but in the end, they aren't shown to be completely wrong. There isn't any, I was wrong, you were right moment. In Hana's case, her mom merely acknowledges that doing Senshiro along with flower arranging led to making Hana better at the latter, while Shiho accepts Miho's personal style and skill privately, while still very much sticking to the classic Nishizumi style herself. It's about regaining mutual respect, rather than trying to knock anybody's traditions down, or prove anybody wrong. On a more macro scale, we see this with the development of Chihatan as a school. In their film, we're introduced to them in their determination to honor their tradition by bravely charging directly at the enemy, something which often fails due to it being used all the time as opposed to at the right time. During the film's main battle, however, They, especially Fukuda and Ishii, started to come around to other tactics, and only do a Banzai-style charge at a time when it does make sense tactically, namely while charging Alice's Centurion. There, it failed not because the tactic is bad, but more because Alice and her crew are just that much more skilled and using a much, much better tank. This Chihatan development continues into Das finale, with them now using hit-and-run tactics to great effect against Oroai. But they of course do so while still respecting the charge tradition, namely by naming the tactics different types of charges, and also still using classic direct attacks if in a smaller scale when appropriate. It's another example of incorporating a new, more personal approach to a tradition while not outright rejecting said tradition. The last example I have that illustrates this sub-theme is also from their film. During the main battle, the team initially elects to operate as a single unit using a single strategy, and this goes very poorly at the start of the battle. Afterward, and after being reminded to focus on what works for her, Miho tells everyone to use their preferred tactics as best they can while still operating as a team. It's another example of the show and its characters respecting the varying traditions of different schools and not trying to force anything new on them, while on the other hand, collaborating with each other and adjusting as needed. Miho doesn't try to force people to fight her way, since she recognizes the value in each school's fighting tradition and that the team will be stronger for it. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it more, this is a mix of both respecting people's individuality as well as tradition, since this is a team made up of disparate people with a wide range of philosophies and traditions in regard to battle tactics. In a similar way to how the show, while poking fun at some national stereotypes that the girls in different schools play act, also takes care to respect the cultures involved, and in many cases also highlights positive stereotypes for the different nationalities. But a full look into that will require another video. Personally, as I mentioned at the start of the video, this is something that really resonated with me, since I'm somebody who holds very strong traditional beliefs. But I also enjoy anime like this and write my own fiction, which is something very uncommon for an Orthodox Jew to do. But that important tradition has only been a boon to my writing, inspiring both my approach to creating my characters and worlds, and also by directly providing inspiration, specifically for my light novel series. It can be hard to find that balance, and there are definite risks inherent in trying to live in both worlds, which is why it's understandable to me for both traditional people to outright reject anything that might lead to somebody deciding to leave the faith, and for people who want to express themselves to completely reject the tradition of their forefathers in order to go their own way. But it's much healthier to find a balance, and in most cases, you can hold on to that valuable tradition while also expressing yourself and your individuality. Most traditions aren't quite as rigid as some make them seem. And Girls Und Panzer is definitely a show about balance, and finding that line between the old and the new, the familiar and the innovative. It's a lesson that many people ought to take to heart, and of course another example of there being much more to Girls Und Panzer if you choose to look past the armor-plated surface. If you enjoyed this video and would like to support the channel, links to my books and light novels are in the description below. Additionally, check out my Patreon. Among other rewards such as early looks at new updates from my mecha serial, my light novels, and more, you'll get to see future videos early. And of course, if you have any thoughts on this video, or aspects of the show you'd like me to talk about, definitely share them below in the comments section. I'd love to hear them, and I do my best to read and respond to all of the comments. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future uploads. That's all for now, so until next time.